across the globe, what we're suffering today, virtually, when you talk about insurgency, terrorism, and all of them, is as a result of the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. And this has given concern not just to the United Nations as a body. The European Union is concerned, ECOWAS is concerned, the AU is also concerned. And over time, the UN has put some measures in place in order to try and minimize the number of illicit firearms, small arms and light weapons in circulation across the world. And Africa, as it were, has suffered its own share. It's not limited, proliferation of small arms and light weapons is not limited to the continent of Africa.
Absolutely.
It's across the world. But Mr. President is concerned about his continent. And then what he's talking about now is like a corroboration between the UN and the African continent in checkmating the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. But even so, there has been a program put in place by the United Nations and some other organizations like the EU and even ECOWAS. My concern here is that whether the continent of Africa has been able to tap into some of those measures put in place by the UN sufficiently to try to reduce or minimize the amount of proliferation of small arms and light weapons we have in this part of the world is another kettle of fish. For instance, even the regional body, ECOWAS, has a policy that checkmates, that supposedly was to help to checkmate the amount of firearms, small arms and firearms that are supposed to come into this part of the world. For instance, as a nation, if you're to buy firearms, small arms, or any of these from any of these manufacturing companies, whether in Europe or in America or any of the other continents, you're supposed to go through ECOWAS. Now, when you make your request through ECOWAS, ECOWAS will publish that. And then that publication, I think, is supposed to wait for whether 30 days or thereabout. And then if there are no opposition, they will issue to you what is called exemption certificate. It is with that exemption certificate that the company, the manufacturers of those firearms outside here, other in Europe and in other places, will first get from you before they can even deal with you to sell firearms to you as a nation. But the greatest challenge we have are not even about those foreign manufactured firearms. The bigger challenge we have that the African presidents should begin to look into are the locally fabricated firearms that are emanating from, in some places, in most villages. Nobody checkmates the amount of those firearms manufactured. There are no codes on them in case you want to do traces. You want to trace them, there's nothing to show for it, and they are very, very cheap. They cut across border towns, they cut across villages and many places across the nation. If you look at the movement of firearms, for instance, through the Sahel, you look at the fall of the dump in Libya, you look at the movement. Libya had a large dump, and on record, across the world, the amount of firearms, small arms and light weapons in the hands of the non-state actors surpasses those in the hands of the state actors. And so, like I have often said, a man cannot challenge you to give to him what you want, what you have, if he does not show you that metal. So, proliferation of small arms and light weapons has done a lot of damages. It's fueling kidnapping, armed robbery, cultism, terrorism, anywhere in the world.
Right.
So have we in Africa been able to sufficiently work